Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Brita Wallace, family and parent educator with Wallace Family Ministry. We are on a Love Dare challenge for parents. I also have another challenge for marriages or for your relationship for the regular Love Dare. If you want to check that out, that is going on simultaneously. You can start right at day one, especially if you haven't been here before and this is your first time visiting. Go back and start from the beginning, take the assessments, and really commit to going on this journey, because there is so much fruit when we're learning how to love our children well, when we're learning how to love our spouses or partners well. So I just want to encourage you to go ahead and go on this journey and start from day one if you need to. So we are on day 17, and day 17 is love seeks God's blessing. Okay, so we always start with a verse, and our verse today is Psalm 21:6, and Psalm 21:6 says, "You make him most blessed forever. You make him joyful with gladness in your presence." So what does blessed look like in a child, teenager, or young adult? The word actually carries with it the idea of being favored, fruitful, and fulfilled, successful and satisfied, possessing reasons to rejoice and be glad. So we all want this for our children, right? We all want our children to be blessed. We want them to be strong. We want them to be wise. We want them to be skillful, joyful, blessed with great friendships and healthy marriages. As parents, we hope that our children show up healthy and grow up happy and safe and secure and loved and blessed, right? We want them to be blessed, right? But who is the person God blesses, and how can children experience it? So this is the first point I want you to get. First, did you know your personal faith and relationship with God can invite him to greatly bless your children? That's your relationship can bless your children. So the scripture says, "How blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. For this causes your children to grow like olive plants around your table, fruitful, strong, and prospering." Psalms 128, 1 and 3. God said he blesses Abraham's descendants because of Abraham's great faith, right? Not because of their great faith. He blessed them before they were even born. But because of Abraham's great faith. And we see that in Genesis 1, 7, 6 through 8. So he later said to his people on the borders of the promised land, "I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse." So this is the second point that I want you to get. Choose life in order that you may live, and you and your descendants, by loving the Lord your God, by obeying his voice, and by holding fast to him. Okay, Deuteronomy 30, 19 and 20. So the third point that I want you to get today is, if you walk in faith and integrity, loving, fearing, and obeying God, his word reveals that he will bless you for it, and he will bless your children as well. I have a lot of stuff underlined in this on this day because it's really, really important, right? Jesus describes several loving, selfless attitudes we should develop that will cause us to be blessed and blissfully fulfilled regardless of our surroundings or our circumstances. Okay, so that's really hard for us to practice sometimes. For us to practice is that no matter what's going on around us, no matter what our circumstances are, no matter what situations we are in, that we are displaying loving and selfless attitudes. Okay, we're being like Jesus. We're called to be like Jesus, and it's not always the easiest response. It's not always the easiest thing to do, and we could all learn how to be better in this area, and to be more like Jesus, and to grow to be more like Jesus, and to show that to our children, and to model that behavior and those attitudes, right? So while these beatitudes, they call them, don't come naturally, as I was just saying, we do give our children a much better chance of growing into them the earlier we start teaching this, modeling and championing them at home. All right, so Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." Being poor in spirit is a moment-by-moment dependence upon God's strength, spirit, and wisdom rather than on our own, okay? It recognizes that forgiveness and salvation are supplied by Him, not conjured from within. It makes prayer more perpetual, knowing that being loving and doing good each day happens only with God's help, not because we have all the answers or the power. And young kids feel indestructible, but they still need God's guidance and protection. So, an action step for us as parents is that we should make our homes prayerful places where we lead one another to humbly admit our need and ask for God's powerful enabling grace. Okay, so that is an action step for us. Blessed are those who mourn, and God comforts those who mourn. He promises that He's going to do this, right? And the things that make us mourn and just pain us, He promises that He's going to comfort us, and He draws near to the brokenhearted. So a child's life should include much fun and laughter, but still recognize that many things are not funny, like violence and abuse, a close friend's pain, or the loss of a loved one. Love does not laugh at sin, okay? We need to teach our children that it is broken by it, that love is broken by sin. And we find this truth in Ezekiel 9:4. It grieves the plight of the poor, national tragedy, death, and hell. Seeing that life can be ugly and painful, children learn that truly caring for God and others means sometimes shedding some tears, okay? So the next point that I want you to get is love balances joyful expression with tearful discretion, all right? Blessed are the gentle. We have to learn to be gentle. That's not something that comes naturally to me. I'm a little more gentle with my children than I am anybody else, but I really had tough things happen to me, and hurts and discouragements and a lot of stuff in my childhood from very, very young that really caused a lot of trauma in my life, and then things that had happened to me as I was growing up, and I became tough. I had this tough exterior that I had put on, and that is how I learned to be for so many years. So gentle was not anything that I ever learned how to be, and I'm teaching myself how to be more gentle now, okay? As I said, that comes easier to me with my children than it does with other people, but, and I am very, very empathetic. I'm a very empathetic person. I feel other people's emotions. I pick up on other people's energies, and that's why sometimes it's really hard for me, and I'm sure that you can relate if this is you too, you know, when there is certain energy in a room and there's, you know, you're in certain circumstances and situations, and it's hard to still be that blessing. It's hard to still be selfless and loving and have this attitude when other people are not displaying that, and you are feeling their feelings and picking up on them. But we can use those times as opportunities to offer a loving word, a compliment, to offer to do something for somebody. Hey, I see maybe that you're upset or you're going through something. How can I help you right now in this moment? How can I just be here for you and make it better for you? And we can do that with our kids as well, right? We should be doing that with our children. We should be doing that with our loved ones. We should be able to learn and want to learn how to be a blessing in this way to others, how to be gentle and not so tough as I was for so many years in my life, right? So love is not restless and resistant. It does not put down others or acts superior, okay? That was also a hard thing for me, is to act superior in certain areas of my life, especially to my children. When we're acting superior, it's actually belittling. It's belittling them. It's putting them down. And that's why it's in the same sentence with each other in this book right here. Love humbles us, and it sees everyone as equal or more important than us, okay? For younger kids, this means sharing, taking turns, and not spoiling the party by being so bossy, okay? And I will tell you that Something I also struggled with when I was a kid. Man, this is beating me up, this day's study. I didn't even realize it was going to do this. And something my strong-willed child struggles with is being bossy. I'm not bossy in my adult life. In fact, I don't like to tell people what to do at all. I do give my children choices. There are things that are non-negotiables, like this is not a choice. This is what you need to be doing right now, period. But I like to give people choices and give them the benefit of the doubt and let them learn to think for themselves. And if if I even know that they're going to make the wrong choice, sometimes I want them to make that choice when we're talking about my kids so that they can learn something from it. There's a consequence. And maybe this is something that they really, really struggle with. And I'm like, I'm not going to boss them around. I'm not going to force them to do something because they're just getting mad at me and now they want to retaliate and now they're going to lie to me about it next time, because that's what happens when we do that in a lot of cases. And there's studies and proof that this is what happens in a lot of children. So giving them the choice and letting them face the consequence actually teaches them more sometimes than just, this is what you need to be doing right now because I said so. Give them the choice, let them make the choice, even if you know they're going to make the wrong one, and then use it as a teachable moment. Give them the consequence or allow the natural consequence to happen, and they're going to learn more from that. Okay, so but strong-willed as a child comes out as bossy. I had friends growing up that told me I was bossy when I was younger, because that's what it is. I mean, that's how that characteristic comes out in children. I see it in my strong-willed 4-year-old who he's like wants to boss his friends around or something, and I'm like, hey, let's make sure that we're not talking that way to our friends and we're being kind and we're not bossing them around, please. Let's make sure that we are allowing them the freedom to play how they want to play or do something the way that they want to do it, because your way isn't right. There's room for both, right? So for older kids, it may mean cheering and being a team player instead of sulking because you're not getting the ball or the glory enough. We want to cheer on our friends. We want to be happy for other people when they succeed. And sometimes, for some of us, that's so hard to do, right? We feel jealous or envious or, we want the glory, and we should not, we should check our hearts there, because that's not something that we should be doing. We should be able to cheer on the people in our lives that we love and be able to allow them to have the glory and the win, right? And to be happy for them when something good happens to them or for them. So we need, so the traditional Bible word here is meek, which does not mean weak, but rather keeping strength under control. It means not having to outmuscle, outshine, or overshadow others. You keep your head from swelling and others from feeling small. Okay, that's really important. We don't want to do that to people. That's very demeaning, and we really need to check our hearts if we're doing that, because why do we want to make people feel small? I think that's a good question we have to ask ourselves, if that's our go-to and that's something that we do, and especially our children. Children are humans just like us. They're just smaller, and we still need to respect them. We don't want to make them feel small, like they don't matter, like they don't have a voice. We want to still be able to encourage them that they are just as important as we are, if not more important, right? So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. We should long to live right and to stay right with God and others, to hunger for that, okay? So we want to use these areas as teachable moments, like I said, and we want to model these behaviors to our children and these attitudes to our children. So blessed are the merciful, those who forgive others, live with compassion for the needy, and walk with a servant's heart, ready to help. Blessed are the pure in heart, those who aren't two different people when in two different settings, but walk in integrity and willingly repent when they fail. Blessed are the peacemakers, those who rush in to quell disagreements and help people find peace with one another and also with God. All right? And finally, blessed are those who have been persecuted. Jesus said when it's a backlash against their good character, their Christian faith, or their unapologetic stance for principle. Our kids should learn to rejoice if they have God's approval whether the world agrees or not. In the long run, we know where compromise will take our kids, and it's not towards a lifetime enjoying the richness of God's blessings, right? Love wants our children to be healthy, happy, and thriving in whatever they do. So if we want our children to have a servant's heart, then we have to teach them to have a servant's heart. So I worked in children's ministry. I'm not sure if you guys know this. And then we moved, I'm sure some of you know this that are watching, and some of you don't know me at all. So I was a children's ministry director for a few years back home. It was a really big blessing in my life. And I wanted my children to see that that's what we're supposed to do. A lot of people ridicule or mock or don't understand why it's important to serve in a church, and it's because it takes the whole congregation, it takes the whole church community for a church to run successfully. Most of these positions are volunteers. The position for me was volunteer for a long time, and for the end of it I did move into a paid role, which is completely fine. But the people underneath me, which were more, and I don't want to say underneath me, that's not what I wanted to say, excuse me, I don't feel that way at all, but the people that I oversaw in the ministry, who I believe we partnered together to make the ministry successful. Honestly, if they weren't there, I wouldn't have made the ministry successful at all. The ministry wouldn't have been successful. It's the volunteers that make it successful. So I misspoke. I just don't like how that sounded. I don't want, I just didn't want to come across that way. So there were over 60 of them. At one point there were 63 when it was at its largest, when I oversaw it. And they're all volunteers, right? So if we want our children to volunteer, we have to show our children that that's important to us. And since we moved here, we moved from New York to Michigan, we've only attended church online, and it's now I'm getting into a point where like COVID is significantly low here, and we just didn't want to expose the people in our lives and keep that exposure as low as possible to anything outside. But COVID is very, very low in our county, and now I'm like really pushing to get back into the habit of actually attending church in a building and not just online, because my children aren't going to do online things, and it's really important for me that we instill that faith and that we instill a servant's heart in them, which is getting out in the community, helping others, or even you can do it right at home too, and just saying like, hey, let's have a serving night and let's take turns serving each other, where, you know, maybe it's this week where you get to serve your brother or your sister and do something really kind for them, and just find a way to serve them and get creative, or your parent or your friend or whoever it is, and really instilling that into our children in the way that's comfortable for you. Okay, so this is today's dare. Ask yourself if your lifestyle is inviting God's blessing on your family or repelling it. Okay, and what needs to change there? All right, so second, choose 2 or more attributes mentioned today and discuss them with your children at mealtime. Then pray for God to instill a thirst within both of them and yourself to develop these attitudes in your life. So let me just go over the attributes again. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Wanted to make sure we didn't miss any. I think we're good. Okay. Blessed are the gentle. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are those who are pure in heart. Blessed are those who have been persecuted. Okay? So we want to choose 2 or more of these attributes that we just talked about again, and discuss them with your children at mealtime. And then we want to pray for God to instill a thirst within both them and yourself to develop these attitudes in our lives, okay? In the lives of our children and in us, so that we can be good models for them. So I really appreciate you being here with me on this journey today. I look forward to day 18 with you guys tomorrow. And I love you guys, and God bless. Make sure if you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel and like it. Take care.